possible. Readings can get boring sometimes. They often put people to sleep. And I have this cold, so I might sniffle through reading, so please bear with me. And I will see how many of you I manage to put to sleep. I'll start at the beginning of the book, which is, there's this narrator who is going down to a very horrible place, which wasn't horrible to begin with, as most of Kashmir can testify. He used to have this valley in his childhood called the Valley of Yellow Flowers, which is what the first chapter is called, which was classic Kashmir, idyllic, beautiful, wonderful. But in the course of the book and in the course of the story, in the course of the novel, it becomes quite horrific. He used to play cricket in this valley and also swim in a typical Kashmiri river, very green. But now it's all changed. It's nightmarish. So I'll begin when he goes there for the first time after all these years, months. When I go down the first time after all these months, years, it is with a sense of both pressing nostalgia and fear. The valley looks like a large green sheet hung tenderly from the surrounding foothills, with a singing, humming is more like it, a rivulet in the middle. It's still the same. A calm, largely uninhabited, solitary place, nestled amidst the rings of our hills and mountains. In my childhood, it was very easy to ignore the Pakistani and the Indian checkposts on either side. You forgot about them the moment you stepped on new, untouched, fresh from dried dew grass and ran downhill for a few minutes before making generous boot marks. I liked long eights and floral designs all over the place. They were far off, distant, almost unreal. And by the time we took off our clothes to splash about in the low and languid stream, we had assumed full ownership of the place and didn't care who was or wasn't peering at us from some ugly checkpost out there on the mountainside. After swimming in the chilly water, we would lie down on the thick carpet of grass for ages, looking at the really, really blue sky and conjuring up odd names for clouds that hung low over our valley before drifting to another one across the mountains. I spent a long time down there, perhaps all my childhood. I don't have a lot of other memories from those early days. Ma and Baba probably thought it best to let me spend all my time there, not venture out. Stay safe inside the valley. So that I wouldn't clamor to move to the city when I grew up and be lost forever. In the years of my growing up, my many border boys went to Sopore or Srinagar or other towns to study, and many refused to come back. Some of them ended up as bus conductors or worked as waiters in rickety restaurants on the national highway. Their parents' cattle herds dwindled with each passing year and brought poverty, loneliness, and ill health. I suppose my parents were scared too. In the years after I grew up, some of the boys either became guides and clandestinely scouted boys across the border into training camps in Pakistan, or became militants themselves to relieve their parents of their yoke of shepherds' lives and give them proper homes when Kashmir would gain its independence. Many disappeared like that from time to time. I guess those who went to the city were luckier. My friends, all my friends, went away too. And God only knows if they will ever come back. Not many do, you see. And those who do, don't live very long here. Because the army people, the protectors of the land, have decided that there is only one way of dealing with the boys: catch and kill, catch and kill. I therefore ended up staying with my parents and their cattle. I stayed on in the valley, and in the end came to own it all by myself. Is it okay if you didn't photograph for about, while I read this? I'm so sorry about that. I look at the first few corpses, and I'm immediately horrified at the prospects of what my first ever job entails. There are probably 6 of them ahead of me, ugly grins, unbelievable, almost inhuman postures, and a grotesque intermingling of broken limbs make me dig my teeth deep and hard into my clenched fists. What an elaborate litter. There are bare wounds, holes dark and visceral, and limbless, armless, even headless torsos. A low moan struggles, screeches inside. Gradually, I approach one of the more intact bodies, gingerly, eyes reduced to hairline slits, and look for a pocket or bag amidst all the dirt and the crusted blood on his clothes. I find the ID card in his back pocket and in some kind of limp, involuntary motion, throw it into the nylon army rucksack the captain gave me last week. It's not easy collecting identity cards and whatever else you can find on dead bodies. Bodies after bodies, some huddled together, others forlorn and lonesome, in various stages of decay. Wretched human remains lie on the grass like cracked toys, deep shoes. For God knows how long, I just cannot remove my eyes from this landscape, heaps of them, big and small, body parts, belongings littered amidst the rubble of legs and arms, macabre, horrid ghouls on either side of the brook. Watch me from the melancholic black hole eye sockets. I guess whoever ended up in the stream was fortunate to be washed away. Carcasses with indefinable expressions on what remains of their faces. I hope I don't recognize anyone. This is what we get, they seem to ask. The smell, the smell, the smell. I cannot begin to describe what it is like the first time. You just stop breathing. That is it. The stench is so powerful that your guts begin to pull your throat down, sort of strangle you from within. If you know what I mean. On the first day, having touched my first ever corpse, I bathed twice in the evening, with scalding hot water and a copious amount of soap, scrubbing and scratching myself into rashes and red nail slashes all over my chest and arms. I can't eat well, however, only the nausea that comes over me for the next few days. It's not easy picking stuff of dead people. That's it for now. A lot of it is quite disturbing, but there was no other way to describe the horror of the 90s. There was no other way. You try poetry, and it turns out quite bad. You try to avoid direct descriptions because you think you don't want to be too graphic. But I spent a long time in debating and discussing with myself. Do I do this or not? And there were moments when I said, this chapter need not be there because it's too horrific. Even for me sometimes, and I read it about 1,000 times. But in the end, I think, I'm not sure if it works, I had the good sense to keep it in. Because there was no other way. Rashad.
Wait, that was one of the most powerful. Hello.